supply chainers, wherever you are in the world. This is Sarah Barnes-Humphrey with you today. Are you ready? Let's talk supply chain. Hey everyone, and welcome to Thoughts and Coffee. I am back. It's been 3 weeks of crazy travel. I know you've seen me, but Audrey hosted last week, and I'm truly grateful to be back. I am just off of surgery and grateful to be home, but had some amazing time over the last couple of weeks, which I'm going to share with you very, very shortly. But we just heard from Fastenal, one of our sponsors, and now we've got to hear from our other sponsor, Emerge. Emerge is proud to partner with Thoughts and Coffee to elevate our combined focus on empowering and growing meaningful relationships in the freight industry. The first and only freight-specific RFP platform, Emerge is reinventing freight procurement by offering solutions that enhance the spot and contract procurement process, enabling shippers to make the most strategic decisions possible, saving invaluable time and enhancing productivity. Learn more at emergemarket.com/thoughts and coffee. All right. So yes, Audrey is going to be my guest back with me today. So you're going to get more Audrey today, which I know you're excited about. But before we bring her up on stage, we've got lots to talk about. We've had a lot going on. So let's talk about the new episode for this week. Who did I have on? Ooh, I had Nelson from Modify. Now, we had a really great conversation about financing and financial services in supply chain. And they are reinventing this for us in supply chain and logistics. And super excited for you guys to get to know who Modify is, because they're really doing some forward-thinking things, and you definitely want to go and get to know them. So that is episode 291, wherever you subscribe to the podcast. So go and check that out. We've also put the link in the comments as well. So go and check that out. What else have we got going on? Oh, we've got Sifted. So all this month in September, we have a Sifted mini series, and we've just released a new episode with Caleb Nelson talking about enabling operational automation. So go and check that out as well. We're going to put a link in there for you. Plus, last week I was at the IANA Intermodal Expo, so I wanted to show you some of the pictures from this particular show. There is David with IANA holding up the sign as we went to the welcome reception. And there's me. I was doing some video work on site. And so that's where I was filming the introduction and the outro. So hopefully you'll be seeing some of those interviews soon. There you go. I was doing some woman on the street as well. Don't look at my shoes. And there we go, some more behind the scenes pictures. So I love that. What else do we have going on? We've got a brand new episode of Blended coming out this week. So last month was episode 23, The Rise of Asian Discrimination. This month, I can't wait for you to check it out. I think it's the gaslighting one, which is really, really, really cool. Plus, we gave away our first grant to Charlie Safro, and she is currently at the CSCMP Edge Conference because of Blended. We were able to give her a grant to cover the travel expenses, and we are super excited about that. We've got 2 brand new live shows happening on this week. We've got Coming in Hot happening on Thursday at 12:30. Plus, we've got No Bullshipping with Hope White, and that is happening Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern. So I can't wait for you guys to check that out. I think Hope has a reporter from Truck and Hustle on the show on Friday, so you're not going to want to miss that one. All right, so I think that's pretty much about it for me. We need to bring up Audrey. Hello, Audrey. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
It is so great to see you. I feel like I haven't seen you in ages.
I know we're sort of accustomed to seeing each other quite frequently, and then it's like, wait a second, what's different about my day? Oh, I haven't seen my bestie in like 3 weeks.
That's so funny. So for anybody who doesn't know who you are,
Oh,
please
sure.
tell everybody who you are.
Sure. So I'm Audrey Ross. I'm here in Toronto. I've clearly rearranged my living space a little bit, so that's going well. I'm an import and export compliance manager at Orchard Custom Beauty. We're a private labeling company that specializes in beauty tools, cosmetics, and bath accessories. So I move goods sort of all over the world and try and make that happen in this difficult market.
Nice. I love that. So talk to me about last week. You hosted Thoughts and Coffee for me last week. Thank you so much for that. Talk to us about how it went with the demo. Did you have a good show? I wasn't able to I watched a little bit of it, but I wasn't able to.
Yeah. Well, I imagine everybody else has watched it, so they know it was a really fun show with Demo. He's, he joined us he's in Panama City, and he's a good friend of ours. Like we've known him throughout the pandemic and through this happy hour group that we did, and just a great guy and just doing really interesting stuff in the market and trying to live his best supply chain life down in Panama City. So it was a great conversation and like good. He has good insights on what's happening like right. Panama is right at the front of seeing these container ships and this sort of maritime environment come through. So then it's what's happening in innovation, what's happening in the environment and sustainability. So some really cool things. And he mentioned my favorite things he talked about was that they're in trying to find sustainable solutions in an innovative way. They've started growing coffee on and around the canal area because it sort of seems to have a good growing situation. And then it's like it's also sustainable. It's also like it doesn't mean that it's just like a wasteland there. It's like it's just more utilization. So awesome stuff.
Awesome. I love that. Well, thank you so much for doing that for me last week while I was at Intermodal Expo. I want to give a shout out to Deepak and Fernando over on my personal LinkedIn. Thanks so much for joining us today. Now let's get to the poll from last week. Did you check this out? So I think we're going to have a follow-up poll to this one this week about the rail strike because of everything that kind of happened. But last week we asked you, how nervous are you about this potential rail strike? So we had a tie because 40% of you said we need to resolve this ASAP. 40% of you said, what rail strike, question mark. 17% said I'll drive the train, and 3% said I can't sleep. What were your thoughts on this, Audrey?
I think it was a nerve-wracking situation for a lot of people for quite a few days. I'm sure there was a few people in our industry who were not getting any sleep. I like the I'll drive the train answer. That's a very Orchard answer. So we just send someone down like, we'll just get it ourselves. It's fine. So I love that one. And then for me, I mean, we were lucky. We don't use a ton of, well, not lately. We haven't used a ton of rail inside the US. So we had some other alternatives, but if you were in it, it seemed like it would be very difficult.
So it was going to be bigger than the Suez Canal because I think the Suez Canal stopped was costing like 400 million a day.
This is like, that was like
a day or something like that.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
Absolutely. Yeah, you don't realize sometimes how the cross rail network in the US, how extensive it is. It's not, here we have the two lines, so maybe it keeps it simpler and it keeps it top of minds. Like in Canada, we have like it's CN, it's CP, it goes like this. There, it's like this whole interconnected system that I think usually we don't hear about because it's running so well and people are using it all the time. It's just like you take it for granted. So.
Yeah, and a lot of consumers don't realize how interconnected that is and how much it would have disrupted their lives if the strike had gone through.
Yeah.
And another possible major disruption, like what Rhonda said. Just like we need another one, but we are going to be talking about another one a little bit later today as well. All right, what else do we have to talk about? Hold on, I need to get there we go.
The articles.
So last week we put out my monthly hustle, and the title of it was Pause, Breathe, and Check In with Yourself. And I wanted to do that obviously because of everything with the rail strike, but obviously all of the disruptions that are happening in supply chain. And I had a lot of really great comments about the breathing exercises that I had included in this particular article. So hopefully you checked it out. If you didn't, you can always go and check it out. It's a newsletter on LinkedIn called The Monthly Hustle, where I check in with you guys once a month, let you know what's going on, and talk about different things like this. And this one is a little bit more leadership type focused or self-care type focused. So I don't know if you had a chance to check it out, but what did you think?
I didn't, because I probably would have been doing those breathing exercises. I've got a trip coming up. I'm flying on the weekend, and I'm a bit anxious about it. So I'm probably going to dig into that later this afternoon.
Well, the other thing, and I should show everybody, I did buy this. So what they say is to slow down your breathing is to use a straw. And so I bought this Camuso necklace that actually helps with anxiety as well.
Oh, nice.
And so it's also a different way to be able to do that other than breathing exercises. This is a tool that you can use as well.
Yeah.
Just thought I'd share that with everybody. The other thing that we shared last week is my stepdaughter, Faith Humphrey, is pursuing her dreams of being a firefighter. And so we wanted to give a shout out to her on my LinkedIn and just show, how following your dreams can really make a difference in your life. So super proud of her and wanted to share it with you folks this morning as well.
Yeah, it's a lot of hard work and discipline. So, bravo, because
she's one of 6 in an internship that got picked, I think, out of 40. So she's living, breathing, and working firefighting right now. So super proud of her. Just wanted to give a shout out for that. What else is happening? Oh, this post. Did you see my headache post? So this is reached like 156,000 people.
Have headaches in supply chain right now. Especially, I love someone had a comment about, if the rail strike happens, my headache will be the all red guy, the all red headache.
It's so funny, and everybody's resonating with it, especially the last two, the parent one, and then obviously the double-digit inflation. So I thought it was very surprising that it's hit this far, but I think that it's a really poignant post right now and it also shows, obviously, with different headaches. I had a bunch of headaches last week, and I think they were hypertension and stress. And this actual diagram helped me self-diagnose exactly what I was going through.
One of the most common headaches is from being dehydrated.
Oh, that's interesting.
So but I'm like, that's you. When I start to get a headache, it's usually like, have you had anything to drink in like a maybe you should not just coffee.
Sometimes it's a coffee headache too, right?
Yeah, probably.
Like, I think it might be a coffee headache. Yeah. And then Gavin said, where was the full body ache? Okay, so we need to create a new diagram for next time. Note to self for next time. We're going to do that. Want to give a shout out to Desiree and Samuel over on my personal LinkedIn page as well, because it's rocking over there. We're having a lot of fun this morning and super glad to be back. All right, we need to talk about our upcoming articles. So what have we got to talk about? So this first one is about the Endless Frontier Act that Biden put in August. And it talks about domestic manufacturing of chips with $100 billion in new funding, which is going to advance diversity in STEM and also create semiconductors, AI, biotech, and quantum computing as well. What did you think about this one, Audrey?
Yeah, I think it's a vital step. I think, there's been a lot of privately funded innovation and science research, but it's always important to tie some of that to public policy. And that's a way that you can tie in, your universities and your academic institutions as well, and sort of really get the best of the breadth of the field in this. So, and it's exciting to see it come through, specifically in the STEM topic. And it'll be an interesting to see some more, essentially infrastructure investment from this administration, and see what that leads to.
They're talking about a $280 billion investment. So $100 billion in new funding, I believe, on the
Yeah.
educational side,
Yeah.
which is huge. I mean, at the end of the day, we need some of that money over in supply chain as well. But I think the rest of it is going towards that domestic manufacturing, because a couple of months ago, we talked about how much money they were going to put towards it. And I think it was somewhere in the 100 billion as well to manufacture the chips. But this has obviously been a disruption and something that has been weighing on a lot of supply chain professionals for a while, because everything that we do, a lot of things that we sell, a lot of the products that we use have microchips. And this has been a really, really growing concern, obviously, over the last couple of years.
And this makes it attractive to the next generation because no one wants to go to a school where you're talking about technology from 10 years ago. You want to be participating in like leading edge, cutting edge. So it's good investment from the Americans. Like, it's not, go big or go home, but you're pulling up that next generation of learners and labor. And also one of the things that we've struggled with in North America, especially in Canada and the US, is having these skilled laborers, right? Having these skilled trades or having these really technologically advanced skilled workers to be able to not just think around these problems. What we do in supply chain is sort of plan and strategize and think and create, but to also make and do. So it'll be interesting to see how it carries through.
Yeah, and I like the fact that they're investing in that education piece. I mean, at the end of the day, we talk about the next generation of supply chain, getting them excited about what's happening in supply chain. And supply chain really drives all of these discussions that we're having, even in the microchip industry. And so I hope that we can get some funding in that area as well for our industry. Hopefully
Yeah.
that can come down as
Yeah.
well.
Just spend more money, but over here.
Give it to supply chain. Come on, supply chain rocks. All right, so our next article is about investing in supply chain. So it's time for Silicon Valley to get serious about logistics, written by Charlie Dehoney. And this is all about what investment looks like. They're saying that very few investors focus on investment in supply chain and logistics because it's just a really big industry. Now, this article I thought was really, really cool. What did you think about this?
Yeah, I thought it was key. I mean, we've heard a lot of talk. I know Eric Johnson. I know there's a couple of people have a tracker going of the number of logistics tech companies that we have sort of in the space. It's definitely a topic of conversation, but are we just talking about it? And is there actually money flowing through? Like, are companies that are sort of designed around log tech or supply chain platforms getting actual money, or is it still just sort of a conversation, or sort of we're talking about it? So this is interesting to point out, like, some of the complexities of why it's not that simple. Why is there no Instagram for supply chain? Why is there no like simple solution of to solve everyone's problem? And it is because it's such a complex industry with so many different stakeholders and so many different private businesses. These are private businesses within your own country. They're in other countries. There's public government regulations and regulatory bodies and government like that you're dealing with. So it's air, it's sea. It's very there's a lot going on in supply chain. But go ahead.
No, I was just going to say the consumer industry is a little bit easier to understand. Like,
Yeah.
I went through this with ships. So I don't know if everybody knows this, but I was able to sell the brand to Jonathan Kempe, who runs Let's Talk Supply Chain Asia Pac and is now running ships. But I ran into this when I was looking for investment for ships. So it's really hard to understand if you're not in this industry and you don't know this industry as well as the person who's actually, putting the innovation out there. And so we were getting compared to everything like Flexport. Like, they compare everything to Flexport.
Right.
And that's the brand that has been in the news. That's the one that's had the PR push, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They don't necessarily know exactly what Flexport does. So they're comparing everything to Flexport. And that was a difficult conversation. Not real. I mean, it wasn't difficult. It was difficult because everything was being compared to that. And you're having to then talk about how it's different and why it's needed and all this kind of stuff to people that don't really understand the industry. So it takes a really specific person and a really specific company to understand what that business is going to do and how it's going to innovate and impact the industry.
And these investments, when we talk about VC funding and things, it's you're taking a risk, and like, you'll see in the news the risk go to a person or a company that for some of us you're like that's the person, that's the horse you're going to bet
Right.
on. I don't know. And so you see in supply chain where it's actually tangible products, and they struggle to get this investment. You're like, but this company does this and it goes to, it's being bought by or used by people who do these 5 things, and this makes it go better. And then it's like, no, we're not going to invest in that, but we'll invest in this thing that, like, I don't know. It always seems very interesting, the private investment piece, because sometimes it really just seems like it's a personality connection. It's not necessarily a tangible work investment. I don't know.
So some of the things that they're saying is that it's expensive, right? Log tech, logistics technology, supply chain technology is expensive. Customers in our industry are risk averse. That was one of the things that Charlie pointed out in there, and that there's not enough investors. But what he did say, and I think this was 2022 numbers or 2021 numbers, 11.3 billion was invested into supply chain startups, which is a really, 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 really huge number. And he actually mentioned our friends over at C Roots, who we did a TikTok with at TPM in March as well. But this investment, I'd be interested to see how much of that money is actually being invested into diverse voices as well. How much of that investment is not only just going to supply chain startups, but also diverse entrepreneurs, right? Diverse founders. What does that look like? How does that break it down? Because that is a lot of money, and we need a lot of money into investment, but we also need to make sure that we've got diversity in that investment so that we can bring those innovations and those perspectives to the industry as well.
Because this is the other risk, is that we're just copying and pasting a TMS. We're just jazzing up or zhuzhing up a basic TMS from 15 years ago. We're like, oh, we did fancy Excel, so now we're good to go. It's like, no, this needs like full transformative technological, change, not just, oh, what were you doing 10 years ago? But now we're just going to make it like this.
So Sven says, I also believe that the sales cycles are much longer, and it is very difficult to create platforms where you can order with a click. That's why investments are much more difficult. Now, Sven, I'm glad that you joined us, first of all. Second of all, I'm glad that you mentioned that, because sales cycles in supply chain and logistics are really, really long. I mean, let's talk about supply chain professionals being bogged down by everything. And then we have to make decisions on technology. And so those sales cycles really do impact the nature of investment coming into our industry. And so, that's a huge deal.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah. Because we carry stuff for months. Yeah.
Sorry, say that again.
We carry stuff for months. I mean, we look at stuff that, you buy you produce the order, it goes into production starting in March. You're going to ship it in June. It's going to arrive. I mean, in Canada, it may never arrive because of what we've got going on, but it would arrive normally in like sort of August, September. And then it's, you may have to kit it or do something to it. And then it goes to your customer in September for holiday. And that started in March. And now it's like October when you're issuing your invoices to your customer. I mean, that's multi-month problems.
Don't we love how honest Audrey is? I mean, I just love it. I mean, your quote, I think, from TPM of like 5 forwarders to 14 forwarders is going to live on forever.
Yeah.
All right, let's get to our third article. So this one is all about disruptions. You're probably thinking to yourself, oh my goodness, what do we have going on now? We just averted a rail strike. What is happening? Well, our next disruption is power.
It's getting real.
Change, and it's getting very, very, very real now. China has halted production and has turned off the power for 2 days in Shanghai. which is halting production, which means that we've got factory shutdowns yet again. And I heard that the same thing might be happening in Germany. Now, I don't know with factories, but I do know that they were going to potentially have rolling blackouts. I haven't heard more on that over the last couple of weeks, so I don't know if that has changed, but we're looking at China and parts of Europe as well. And so, Audrey, talk to us about this disruption. Has it affected you yet? And what are we looking at, and what can we really do?
Yeah, it hasn't exactly been significant enough yet. China's had rolling brownouts and blackouts in the past. Often it was to facilitate power shifts around the Olympics because China's very strategic about their energy use, and imagine would be state controlled. So they would sort of issue a notice to businesses in certain areas to say that we're going to start, you're going to run on reduced hours, or you're only going to be operating a certain amount of time per day, or on certain days. So it's not something we haven't seen in China before. I think the issue now is this isn't controlled, so before it was sort of for a specific purpose, like the Olympics, pulling power from the grid to facilitate construction or to facilitate those events. This is climate change. This is a drought. So this drought has been affecting the sort of access and power grid stations. And I've seen what Sven's seen, that it's not maybe so much now for Germany, but when it starts to get colder in Europe, they're really talking about issues due to the Russian sanctions and the Russian energy issues that they're having from the Ukraine crisis. And so you aren't seeing it quite yet, but they're expecting just a really, really difficult winter in the UK, through most of Europe. Turning your heat down, wearing extra socks, like it's going to be an interesting time for us that I don't think we expected to live through. But yeah, that will have a huge effect on manufacturing, because obviously you have to sort of prioritize, your people and their sort of living conditions over some of the accelerated industries. So.
Living conditions, working conditions. They're also talking about the drought affecting livestock and food production in China as well. So it's not just the manufacturing of goods, it's actually the manufacturing of food.
Yeah. And that's across the board. We've been seeing since the Ukraine crisis. Of course, Ukraine is a big producer of wheat and grains. And then with the pandemic and some labor shortages, you're seeing farmers maybe weren't going farming full capacity because they couldn't seed to full capacity because they didn't have the people that they needed or the equipment that they needed. And then you're seeing that when they are harvesting, they're maybe not harvesting their full yield of what they put in. And then when they are harvesting it, they're maybe not producing it. If they can't turn it around fast enough, it's perishable. It goes to what? So, I mean, we're having a lot of problems. I think most of us, it's like we've seen some empty shelves and we've been able to sort of, like, oh yeah, I'm sure it's just in the back, like ignore it tonight. But it's going to be an interesting winter, I think. And
they're also talking about in China using coal for energy as well to be able to help. But they also want to go carbon neutral by 2060. And so I think that's going to put them backwards.
Everybody's in the same position, because I think Germany is talking specifically about coal, and they're talking about there's an investment with Canada for I think natural gas, but that won't come through for another 3 years because it has to be built. And so I think we're in a really interesting position where I think everyone had these goals that a lot of people would say were too far out. Like oh yeah, by 2050, we're going to do this, by 2040, by 2060. And then it's like, really, you needed to do this now, but okay, sure, you'll do it by 2050. And then this sort of crisis has happened, this sort of manufactured crisis. And now they have to do it. And they realize it's like, you're really going to have to accelerate this, or we're going to have to do this weird, like, step back to using energy that we didn't want to use, and it's going to really throw off our goals. But I hope it's getting people understanding. It's the same in manufacturing. Where's your stuff coming from? Who's in part of your supply chain? Are they responsible and reliable? Is this the best way forward? And it's a lot of questions, and I certainly don't have the answers.
Yeah, neither of us have the answers, but this is a really, really great article, and we just put the article in the comments. So we definitely urge you to go and check it out and read up a little bit more on this, because of course, this is just another disruption to your supply chain so that you can go back and talk to your teams and really manage that risk and where you're going to spend the risk dollars and what that means for you. All right, so we are at events time. Let's talk about where I'm going to be. So before I talk about Forge, Audrey and I are going to be with Redwood Logistics in the middle of October for the Woman in Logistics event. I don't have the graphic, I don't think, just yet. But as soon as we have it, we will get that up for you so you guys can go and check that out. We're going to be talking all about women in logistics. It's going to be a really, really great conversation. And then in November, I'm going to be at Forge with so many amazing procurement professionals at the Procurement Foundry event. So hope to see you there. That's going to be in Las Vegas. And then I'm keynoting the Women in Supply Chain Forum in Atlanta, November 8th and 9th, and cannot wait to meet you all there. Of course, we've got all the registration links in the link that we just put in the comments. Plus, we've got Manifest coming up in January, where I'll be recording on site all sorts of content. There's a lot of content that I'm going to be recording there. And of course, we've got special delivery with Far Eye coming up next week. We've got action items with DC Shvagola, all of our live shows, Log Tech Live with Eric Johnson, No Bullshipping with Hope White's coming up this Friday. First Things First with Mercado, and coming in hot on Thursday as well. So just want to let you guys know, over on the Let's Talk Supply Chain YouTube page, you can go and catch up on everything. Thank you so much for joining us this week. Audrey, as always, thanks for being a great guest. And we'll see you next week, where I'm going to be talking to Matthias all about DPW.